Today we are with Jaanika Okk. You run an artist agency, aren't you? Okk Arts.
Yes, yes. So basically, I call it consultancy just because
Okay.
it's in between of being an agency, an agent, and an actual coach, and so it's just bringing it all together, and therefore, well, yeah, consulting artists. So that's what I do.
Okay.
Yes.
So before I ask you the first question, I just wanted to make a little bit of introduction saying that this interview is going to be part of my podcast series where I interview arts professionals from Birmingham. So Okk Arts, could you tell me what is it all about?
Okay. So just to explain a little bit about the background as well and how it all came about in the first place. So I'm a fine artist. So I'm a printmaker. So traditional printmaking is what I do, and this is my trade. And being a fine artist always comes with a small script. You need to have a job next to it. You need to do something extra next to it, and also being very good at writing fund applications because it's all very much funding based industry as well. So after a while being organizing my own solo shows, being part of other artist group shows, I slowly moved to arts management, so organizing arts events and exhibitions for other artists because people saw that it kind of worked, so they kind of asked me just to help them with their arts management, and that's also the reason how I actually came to Birmingham. So from my Estonian background and from coming from Estonia as an Estonian printmaker, so did my second master's here in Birmingham at BCU, and did it in arts and project management. So after graduation, I realized that there's a lot of artists in the West Midlands and in Birmingham, and a lot of artists are actually staying in the region rather than moving down to London. So how come there is still not many artworks in the office spaces? There's so many office spaces being built, especially with all the regeneration happening in the West Midlands. And you can still see like IKEA artwork. I am generalizing, of course, but mainly you can still see that kind of reproductions, mass reproduction artworks. So at first I started with online art gallery called Okk Gallery because of, well, from my name. But after a couple of years, the gallery did not work in a way that the business model did not work for me as I thought it would work, because I was having more of conversations of helping artists. So rather than, I was having the conversation with businesses, placing the artworks in the offices, but I saw much more bigger needs in helping artists to understand what is sellable, how to present themselves, how to come across in front of the buyer, and how to be different. Like, why should people buy from those artists? And that's how Okk Arts started. So because it's understanding the market needs, and the market need was that artists needed help with basically setting up their creative businesses, and that's how Okk Arts has been starting as well. So very long story, but here we are. So
No, that's all very interesting. So could you tell me a bit more about how does it work? So what kind of offer do you have for artists?
yeah. So the offer is artist development. So it very much depends on how artists want to work. Either they want to work on one-to-one basis, or they want to work in a group consultation basis. Obviously not in a current context and current climate, but so currently I'm focusing just on one-to-ones, and it's mainly via Skype or Zoom. But what it is, so first of all, I have a free discovery call with artists. So artists establish that they need some sort of help. So it's not always a very clear path. So these discovery calls are a really good for me to understand where can I help and if I can help at all. Because sometimes, artists can do a lot of things themselves, but they just you know, it's having somebody saying, actually, you know what, you have loads of things happening already, so you can do things yourself and you don't need an external help. And sometimes people do need external help. So I do go through a program which I've put together based on my experience, but also what I would want to see as a fine artist myself, and how would this work for me. So essentially, everything that I ideally would have loved to study at uni. So once I graduate, that I actually can do it myself as well. So the program itself, so well, first of all, yeah, it's a discovery call, and then I'll come up with an offer for that specific artist, because each artist needs a very custom approach. The overarching skeleton of the program is the same, but some artists need more help in one aspect and one area, and some artists don't. So what I do, I start with a very much basic of why do artists create, to get to the actual reason why. And it's not just about why in terms of, oh, I want to have likes on social media, which is great, but if those likes are not translating into transactions, then what's the point? So distancing from this external validation first of all, so understanding why the artists create, and then start building the brand. So what is this, why are you different than any other that type of artist? Why would people buy your artwork, and why would people want to buy your artwork? Then building the brand, so looking at the basics of websites, social media, how you come across in terms of, especially now with an online and everyone having your online presence and online branding as well. Then looking at very basic admin as well. I must say, I'm not giving any legal advice because I'm not a legal professional, but I always say it's like, I can put you in touch with people who are. But I do go through with a lot of things which are tried and tested either by myself or people who I've been working with as well. So for example, going through the practicalities of running a freelance, being a freelance. So what do you need to have? What kind of client management systems do you need to have? What kind of bookkeeping systems do you need to have? Making sure that you can actually produce invoices, that it's not just cash in hand. You know, when you sell artwork, what do you need to do? So how do you need to contact once you have the transaction has been agreed, what do you need to do with that, and how you get to from the point of, this is my artwork, you like my artwork, to the point that the artwork is with the client. Then looking at exhibition management. So how do you actually create an exhibition? How do you take part in group shows? All these parts of how to install artworks as well. Obviously, again, I cannot physically install a very quirky and different artworks and installations, but there are ways to what to pay attention to as well. Looking at how do you write about your work, how do you talk about your work, and again getting other people involved in the nitty-gritty bit of it as well, and bringing it all together in terms of that after you've gone through this program, you are independent and you can carry on yourself. So the program itself lasts for 6 months, but how often we meet, it really depends on a budget. I try to be as flexible as possible. And my idea essentially is that I need to make myself redundant, that after 6 months, the artist is ready to carry on themselves. So the group program is essentially the same, but the additional value is that the artists have some peer-to-peer support as well. So obviously it's a cohort coming together. And with the group program, there's going to be an exhibition by the end of the program as well. So a group show, so where artists will understand how to write about their work, how to invite people to the gallery, whichever gallery it is. You know, it can be a pop-up event as well. It doesn't have to be like a physical gallery event, but it's all about the experience and helping artists to understand what it all makes. So it's very like practical approaches as well. But sometimes it's the program deviates a little bit as well, again depending on what artists need, and especially where do they need the help the most. So
So
I
who
know I
are
can carry on a long
No,
time.
no, it's very interesting. So, who are your clients? Would you say that they mostly from Birmingham, professional artists that came out of the School of Art, or absolutely not? Like, who are they?
Well, yes and no. So on one hand, so first of all, locality, to be honest, does not matter. So before the lockdown, I tried to have driving distance because I want to have as much possible to have visits in the artist studios, so I could actually see the physical work. Because one thing is, in front of the computer screen, it might give a bit skewed overview of what your work is. But saying that, you know, I've been working with artists from far distances who I've actually met like once physically, but the communication has been via online, and obviously now it's literally, it does not matter. You can, I'm having a conversation with artists from, you know, west coast of North America, you know, so it really doesn't matter. Now, what type of artists? Now, it can be either recent graduates who have a wealth of work and a body of work, but they don't know what to do next. But also it's about having somebody who's like an accountability partner as well, and can offer you an extra critique, so extra pair of eyes as well. Because it's great when your friends and family says that, oh, you know, you create amazing work, it's lovely, but okay, what's next then? If it's all great, where do you develop, where do you grow further? And being in a university and this kind of institution, it's a really safe place to be. It's because you have deadlines, and deadlines motivate, don't they? And you have people, you have tutors who comment on your work, you get feedback, you have access to materials, and it's all great until you graduate, and then it's what now? So this type of artist, it's more of the practical side. So okay, how do you come across in front of the gallery? So working with the gallery, how do you present your portfolio? How do you talk about your work? How do you become gallery ready? Is the gallery the best option for you as well? Because not all artists want to go through gallery, because it's very much depends on, do the artists what do they want? So is it the visibility? Do you want to be visible in front of the international curators? Or you purely want to sell, to get money in? Because the route is very different. There is a place where it all comes together, but it doesn't come right away. So, because let's face it, we've seen so many artists who are absolutely amazing at what they do. They have tons of visibility. Do they actually earn living? Can they look after their kids? Can they pay mortgage? Not always. And then you have people who earn good money and no one knows about them. Like, so it's very different. Again, I'm describing very extreme cases, but this is how it ballpark works. So it's very much understanding there's nothing wrong to say that, no, I just want to be visible, I want to, I don't know, exhibit and represent UK at the Venice Biennial. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, but equally there's nothing wrong with saying, actually I just want to provide for my family and that's it. First of all, that's almost like the first question, actually, what I try to find out. And bear in mind, people do change their minds as well. That's absolutely fine. But my role is to manage expectations. So if you go and sell your artwork at, I don't know, town art fair for £15, then don't expect huge curators to come and notice you. But then there's nothing wrong to do that. You can do it because, let's face it, if you sell like 20 pieces for £15 in one day, it's great. At least you cover your expenses. But it's all about managing those expectations. If you want to earn a living with your art, okay, how much do you need to earn? How much are your expenses? How much do you want to pay yourself a salary? Because if you want to earn, you need to pay yourself a salary. If you want to have a day job, again, nothing wrong, but then don't expect. So it's all about managing expectations. But coming back, I deviated a little bit with the topic, but coming back to the clients and the type of artist I work with as well. So the one is the recent graduates. Then it's hobby artists, so people who don't have very thorough art education background, but they just do something pretty over the weekend and just want to take it to the next level, can work with those. And the same type of artists are people who change their careers, so they're career changers, so they've been doing something completely different throughout their whole life, and then decided that later in their careers that, oh, actually art is something that I feel just myself in. But instead of going through the whole education system, having this kind of consultation has helped as well. So again, happy to have a chat with any artist who wants to take their art to the next level. Essentially, that's what it is. And it's more of, especially now, finding the way, how can you make any living with art, and just being so stranded with home, but also it's about well-being as well. So, but yeah, definitely going back to the second question about being either preparing financially, financial sustainability, or the creative career. So it is very much, I'm not doing, working with me doesn't guarantee anything, because the artist needs to do the work. My job is to provide enough information and the right sources of information to make this informed decision, and making sure that, okay, I want to do this, but I need to consider this and this and this and this as well. So it's not just, oh, I'll be discovered by a massive curator, and the collectors will love my work, and I will have, I'll sell every single year for a certain number. And I mean, it's lovely and it does happen, but let's face it, it's like 1 in a million. So in order to be prepared, it's all about having a calculation behind. Dream, where do you want to see yourself? uh, you know it's one question. It's like, in an ideal world, if nothing is an obstacle, no money, no financial obligations, no personal obligations, where do you see yourself? What do you want to do? Because it's great if you sell a piece of artwork for a grand a month. It's amazing. You sell one artwork which you create a month, throughout the 4 weeks, you sell it, great, and you do this 12 months, and your income is, and it's not even income, your turnover is 12 grand. And if you start thinking, okay, how much time you have spent there, how much materials, how much the studio rent, how much insurance, and you start thinking that I could earn more going to stack shelves in Tesco, then it's just putting things into perspective. And then this selling an artwork for a grand a month doesn't actually seem so great, is it? So it's just understanding those things.
But I would say that majority of artists, when they think about their art and why they want to be artists, they don't think about this kind of business, the business side of their art. And I would say that to expect from artists to think like that is kind of take away that essence of being an artist. We don't associate art with money, or we try to separate art from money, and we don't talk about it very often. Even if you go to a commercial gallery, there are no prices most of the time. So how do you manage to marry money, talking about money, with art?
We live in a capitalist society. That's it. We need to eat. We need to we have families. We need to look after our kids. We need to pay for the roof. And it's great if there's an opportunities that you don't have to think about that. It's great that you can look at the funding, but the real life it's not so romantic, I'm afraid. And that's the thing. It's like my service is not for everyone, which is again absolutely fine. But if there is if the question is that I've done everything, I've tried like a lot of galleries, I've tried this, I've tried that, and nothing works, what do you do? And that's it. It's great to be an artist. It's great to live just based on, I don't know, air and love. It's amazing. And
Or
if you
have a
could do
second
that,
job, basically, where people mostly do that.
or if you do that, if you're happy with having a second job, that's absolutely fine. That's it. But it's just having an opportunity to see other side as well. And I'm not saying that, you don't have to be, you don't have to sell yourself in terms of, oh, I'm not running a business, I'm an artist. Again, that's absolutely fine. If you can find an agent who will speak on your behalf, that'll be amazing. You just create your work. But not a lot of artists can afford that. So there's a lot of things that artists can do themselves as part of their creative career as well. And the main thing is also time management. So understanding how much time do you spend on creating, and if you have certain systems in place to get the admin stuff running, it doesn't take that much of a time, and you still have time to focus on your art, do the research, because that's the thing, it really depends on an artist as well, because some artists are not looking at anything, how to develop their work as well. So how do you develop your visual work as well? Do you look at your competitions? Do you look at what is your inspiration? Looking at art history references, going back to even basics, especially for artists who don't have a very structured art background, thinking about, okay, you are an abstract artist, but you do need to look at how, like, human anatomy, you need to learn that. So again, it's so subjective. Well, art in general is subjective, but it very much depends on what kind of art you produce, but also what do you want. If you want to have your day job and have you create art without selling it, without just getting it out there, that's absolutely fine. And then it's just okay, but it's never going to be easy, even if it's just the visibility as well. Or if you don't want the visibility, you don't have to.
So what's your imagined ideal trajectory of the artist that you are mentoring?
One client that I've been working with, was one of those who came to art later in their lives. So they don't have any art background, but just realized that actually I really want to do art because my day job is just not giving me enough mental and so satisfaction in my own mental life. So the artist started doing just some abstract work, and initially it was literally throwing paint on the canvas and hoping for the best. So thinking about, okay, what do we do now? So then it was very much starting from the basics. So looking at the composition, looking at the color theory, looking at the positive negative space, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, parallel, I was dealing with a lot of mindset as well, because artist mindset is a very different one from people who don't have art in their mind every single day. So dealing with imposter syndromes, dealing with all the problems in terms of acceptance and all that kind of thing. And building this character, again, it really depends on an artist as well, but building this character helped the artist to actually sell their work. And a year later, so they continued working, but the program went for 6 months. And by 6 months, I think, so from April till, when was it, September last year, by September, the artist had like 20 commissions and was planning a residence like in Italy, because he was invited to fill in artworks in one boutique hotel. But it was very much of, you need to have content for that. You cannot just, create something and just go for it. You do need to have a thorough content for that. So so that was one example. Other example, I worked with one artist who created a very, very specific style of work. And the artist approached me because they felt that that style is not them. So it was very much of, I'm doing this because, I can sell it, but it's not me. So we were looking at, okay, what can we do in terms of trying different development of the artwork. So rather than me going and saying, in order to sell, you need to produce X, it's more of, what do you produce already, and how can we work with that? So yeah, just a couple of examples of that.
And how do you find your clients, or how do they find you?
Different ways. So it's either word of mouth. So I do quite a lot of networking as well. So even now, long live Zoom, honestly. Quite a lot of networking within the business community in Birmingham and West Midlands, also within the art community. So going to art events, not just exhibition openings, but talks, anywhere where there's a networking possibility. And my clients come, like, I don't go out there to sell. It's like, you need help, so it's very much just saying what I do, and then it's having this curiosity. It's like, okay, shall we have a phone call? Shall we arrange a coffee? And from there, and not all these kind of conversations end up being paying clients. Not at all. It's very much, for me, it's why I do this is helping other artists who been where I've been, or who are where I've been, not to be there. Because I'm just thinking that there is a lot of things that are out there. Although there's business coaching in a normal businesses, like normal businesses, not that art business is a normal business, but but a lot of like business coaches saying that. I worked with 4 different business coaches. They all tried to pigeonhole me. And I was like, what are you on about? You cannot pigeonhole me. You cannot just implement a certain structure or certain box and just put me in there. You cannot do that. So talking about where do I find the clients? So networking, I find I'm focusing on social media, on LinkedIn and Instagram, purely because I find that those two are working the best for the business, and especially LinkedIn, because a lot of artists who are in LinkedIn and having those conversations in LinkedIn are very quite entrepreneurial, so they're business minded already, or at least there's a little bit already there, um, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So social media campaigns. I did, again, before the whole lockdown, I did taster sessions. So it's a mini consultation session. So artists could actually come and find out what they will be finding out. So it wasn't like a blatant sales pitch. It was more of a mini session that they could actually go away with as well. And yeah, word of mouth. So I know I have to do more marketing. So as with everything. So
In terms of Birmingham, because you are here in Birmingham, is there any reason that you chose Birmingham other than that you actually studied here? Do you feel like it's the right place for your business to be?
yes. Yes, it is. Why I came to study, and the whole plan was that I'll study, and after graduation I'll go back. That was 9 years ago, so here I am still. So the reason why I stayed was that well, first of all, there wasn't, on one hand, there wasn't like a cozy job waiting for me back in Estonia, so I realized that actually I just need to start doing something myself anyway. So, and I thought that I might as well just stay here because I have already some networks, and I thought that when I made this decision, I was 27, and I realized that if I go back to Estonia, I'll not come back. So I thought that, okay, I'm going to stay a bit, see what's going to happen, and if it all falls apart, I can always go home. But I think for me, especially being in Birmingham in 2011 and 12, when it's like the whole West Midlands like was so flourishing and booming, and well, it still is. And I was like, actually, first of all, Birmingham is extremely welcoming city. I really find that it's like, no matter what's your background, no matter where you're from, what matters is who you are, and how you, what's your attitude and how you act and what you do, rather than what's your background is, not background, but where you're coming from. And I found that this was one of the big factors that I did stay in Birmingham rather than moving anywhere else. And the other thing is, it's, yeah, I had a lot of people, questioned me, why Birmingham, like in Estonia as well. It's like, there's just one gallery there and that's it. Why do you stay there? It's like, you haven't been in Birmingham for 20 years. You have no idea what's happening here. So, and I think being part of this city in these times, and actually making, even if it's like a microscopical impact within this region, you know, this is being proud. You know, it makes me proud that I can do this. And it, there is a difference already, because the artists I've been working with, you know, I see them developing, I see them growing. Why should I leave? So why should I leave?
So you mentioned that some people think there is one gallery in Birmingham. Talking about galleries, could you tell me about your favorite places to go here?
I do circles. I don't have like, to be honest, I don't have like one favorite. I do like going, it depends which area I'm at, obviously. So if I go to Digbeth, I love just walking around in Digbeth and doing a circle in Minerva Works, and going visiting galleries. I love Digbeth those Fridays. I think they're always such a cool evening out, especially like summer times. They're absolutely amazing where you can stay out as well. You know, I love Jewelry Quarter. It's great. Great new venues are popping out there, up there as well. Just hoping that they will keep on going, because such a shame some places close, which have been doing amazing work. And
So what kind of
obviously,
galleries in Jewelry Quarter would you recommend? Just thinking about viewers and listeners who don't really know the art scene here in
mm,
Birmingham. So it's like recommendations.
yeah, so definitely in Jewelry Quarter, Argenta Gallery and St. Paul Square. This gallery is focusing on photography artists, so photo artists predominantly. And I think, yeah, they are my favorites. So, but also, you know, Iron House is having a good set of events happening as well. So they're a bit further the outskirts of Jewelry Quarter, but still in Jewelry Quarter. Obviously, Odox now is unfortunately closed, but they had quite a cool program as well. And uh, so yeah, so Digbeth, Minerva Works area, so Centrala Gallery, Vivid Projects, Grand Union, Grand Union, and Strix as well. So an amazing set of projects. Then obviously City Centre, we have Icon, so Icon Gallery. We have obviously BMAC, Mac. Mac is always such a good experience rather than just a show, because you can get so many different things in Mac, which I love, especially if it's a lovely weather. You can combine it with a lovely walk as well, and or if there is a talk, or any theatre show as well there. Um, so yes, there is a lot happening. So many cool stuff is happening outside of Birmingham as well, but in West Midlands, you know, New Art Gallery, Warsaw, Wolverhampton Art Gallery, you know, there's constantly events happening, and it's great to see people supporting each other as well,
Yeah, I also
especially.
wanted to ask you about your typical day. How does your typical day look like? It's always interesting for me.
I don't have a typical day, to be honest. I can tell you how's my typical day now, just because during where we can have like a freedom of movement, my typical day usually I have an office space in Birmingham city centre. So I've tried to have a very strict office hours. So I try to work from 8:30 till 5. So keep this as a proper office hours. Doesn't always work like that, but you know, striving towards it. Just because I've been working within, you know, early 20s. I've been just doing stupid working hours, and just, you know, if you can rock and roll with like 2 hours of sleep for a month, that's fine, you know, every day. But being being mid 30s now, it's like you cannot do that anymore. So therefore it's quite strict. I'm quite strict with meetings as well now. So if it's needed a meeting, or it can be a phone call, because again, commuting, getting to the meeting, having an hour chat, getting back to the meeting. And it's also about the headspace, because it will take off the chunk of, you know, at least an hour meeting will take 3 hours out of your work. So just being very, very strict, and calendar management. So time management itself is very, very strict. But yeah, usually in a normal conditions, yeah, because I live outside of Birmingham, so I have this lovely commute on a train, which I usually either read a book or have some podcasts, listen some podcasts. So I use the train time as my own personal development. So I try to find something which is personal development.
Are they art
And
books or rather art podcasts?
uh, not, I listen a lot of like TED Talks. I cannot recommend right away an art podcast because I'm still searching quite a lot of different ones now, including yourselves. But art books, yes. So are very much, because it's very much, my business model doesn't have another business model in front of it. So I constantly need to evolve and develop myself. Usually I have a couple of meetings during the day, some with artists, some with very much of relationship building. So lot of my work is not a direct sale. It's very much of, you do business with people you know, like, and trust, and that creating that takes time. Perhaps some networking event in that midday, and then doing my own admin as well, a bit. So daily bookkeeping joys, but also the work itself. So either having preparing for a consultation meeting, looking through some preparation materials in terms of what the artists have been doing, how can I support them in terms of looking at their work, preparing in term with their where they can develop themselves and so on, but also prospecting daily looking for new clients and having this pipeline in place, so that people having a conversation with, people who are interested, sort of having a phone call with, arranging a meeting, having a agreement sent, having agreement signed, starting the set. And then, yeah, end of the day is again train time, some personal development, and then evening time. I try to keep it very like strict routine and not do any work in the evenings, but I try to do my own art.
Okay, so I'll ask about that next, but what about those art events, exhibition openings? They usually happen in the evening.
Yeah, so that's why it's like the five o'clock is like, it's an ideal, but it's not always happening. So yeah, so it really depends on the day. So either do I need to travel somewhere else or go somewhere other event as well. Again, I'm trying to limit my event attendance as well, during the week, just being realistic as well, because let's face it, you can go everywhere like 7 days a week from morning till evening, but you need to be very mindful of of your energy levels as well, because the next day you're going to work, and running your own business requires a lot of self-discipline. So you need to be very, very mindful, because it's so easy to burn out.
So I think the last question about you being an artist as well. So how do you juggle that? Are you planning? Do you want to be maybe one day 100% like only being an artist, or are you happy with being both, or maybe even three things in the same time, doing three different things or two different things?
So my plan with the business is to grow it and evolve it, and finally step away from the business. So I want the business to live itself. So I'm looking to get more consultants in place, so the business can run outside of me, and I can just deal with just selected number of clients if I want to. But yes, I want to go back to my
And
art.
on that note, I think we can end the podcast. Thank you so much. I think that's so interesting what you shared with me. and
Thank
I'm
you.
sure it will be interesting for other people as well. So that's very generous of you as well. All of the information is very useful. So yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Absolutely.